What's popping in the streets, everybody? I believe, therefore, I am King Sylar. Hope you're doing all right today. Obviously, you guys can tell by the title. Back at it with another Star Wars video. As I've said before, I'm a really big anime, Star Wars, battle rap, anime fan, Marvel, DC, all those things that most young men get into when they're kids. I've just continued to be a fan because they keep me going every day and they keep me from losing my ish. So yeah, it's a nice place for me to vent and decompress. But yeah, so we're back at it. Obviously, you guys can see the title. Just wanted to get my feedback as far as the Kenobi film. But before we do that, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Please hit the like button. Trying to hit that 500 mark. So that way I can start definitely producing different varieties of content for you guys. So if you have any comments or feedback, definitely let me know. I'd love to hear your opinions on what you thought of the Kenobi series. But without delay, let's go ahead and get into it. So first things first, so that way, of course, we're not here all day, every day. I'm just going to separate it down the line, the likes and dislikes, and then honestly my overall view of as far as for the show. So parts obviously that I liked about it, and just to be clear right off bat, I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people to where I only watched this show because, if I'm being completely transparent, like your boy had COVID and I was at the house and I couldn't do anything. I literally had no other choice but to watch this. Like I was quarantining in my room, and yeah, Kenobi was the only thing that was on there. Nothing else that dropped at a particular time. But I will definitely say that overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm definitely a diehard Star Wars fan, but this probably was the one that kind of I was really hesitant about. I'm not gonna lie, I have a chip on my shoulder when it comes to Kenobi, but we'll definitely get to that. So let's go ahead and start with it. So starting with the likes, I definitely enjoyed Reva Savander's plot and her story. Obviously, when it comes to Star Wars, it's always has that underlining plot of forgiveness, and not turning to the dark side or turning back to the light side and stuff like that. In my personal opinion, they do that a little bit too much for my taste. Like, people be out here murdering people and stuff like that, and it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, welcome back to the light. No, that ain't how it works. So I'm not that I'm not that compassionate about it. But I definitely enjoyed the fact that, like, them definitely explaining, who Reva was and how she became to be, and just the idea of her not, going with the stereotypical like plot line of just like, oh, Kenobi, I found you, and then Kenobi talks you into, turning to the light side and stuff like that. It was never about her turning her back, well, I won't say necessarily turning her back on the light side, but it was never about her wanting to get forgiveness or she simply like lost her path. It was always like a direct line, like, I know what I'm doing to get to this particular point. So it's, kind of like most people, like, when it comes to that join the Sith and stuff like that, we saw it with the Grand Inquisitor, we saw it with Vader, like we saw it with a bunch of people that it's just like, they just blindly go down the dark side. Reva was, in my personal opinion, she's been much more aware than other Jedi that have fallen to the dark side. And she was just like, I'm hunting Kenobi because I know that my biggest enemy is Darth Vader. And this is kind of like in a sense, the worm or the bait that I need to wiggle in front of Vader because he's my real enemy. And I thought that was absolutely amazing. So it was never a situation of her just like, completely going back to the light side and stuff like that. I think that it was a genuine conscious effort because it's like, like she said, she thought Anakin Skywalker, was coming to save them. And so to be, in a sense, to be killed, watch all your friends and all your fellow pupils and stuff like that be cut down by like the poster boy of the Jedi and stuff like that is pretty gonna be pretty traumatic, and I think they did an absolutely amazing job of like how they showed that flashback. Like, that was absolutely great. And then of course, the irony, that's how you end up getting defeated. Like, you end up getting impaled again, just by a different version of Anakin or a different Vader. You get what I'm saying. So I know people kind of gave her a lot of crap, but I don't think, because I heard comments of people basically saying like, oh, I hate Kenobi just to hate Kenobi. Like, I don't think it was ever a situation where she hated Kenobi. She just knew his value and how important he was to defeating Vader. So I think they did an absolutely great job with Reva. I definitely love the fight scene between Vader and Kenobi. If we're being real, even though I'm a much bigger fan of other Jedi, such as Mace Windu, Plo Koon, Diva Lava. That's not. I'm not saying her name. No, not her. Yoda, Darth Tyrannus, all those guys, Star Killer. Just I'm a much bigger fan of other people's fighting styles and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, you can't knock it. Anakin and Kenobi's fight scene at the end of Revenge of the Sith was A1, and I thought it was really cool because it almost kind of seemed like then it was just mainly just lightsaber. It was just dueling at that point. But now at this particular time, you see a much bigger use of as far as the Force, and for me, it almost kind of communicated an underlining tone of maturity and growth. Maybe not necessarily so much for Kenobi in the beginning or the first phase of the fight, but definitely towards the second end, when he was just throwing rocks. I thought that was absolutely hilarious because it was just it's always just this weird thing when we see certain Jedi who never showcase any type of raw Force ability, and it's just Kenobi just picks up at least from what it looks like close to 30 rocks, boulders I guess would be a better word to use, and just starts just pummeling Vader with it and stuff like that. And for us to see Vader, which we've never seen him before, even in other cases, even with the fight with Luke Skywalker, but you don't see him just getting beat up. You almost saw a child. It was almost yet again Kenobi getting the upper hand, and that's again what they did a great job as well, as far as the flashbacks and stuff like that, as far as Anakin's need and his desire to win, almost kind of dabbles or kind of whispers at the dark side and stuff like that. It's it's not a competition, it's not about winning, it's just simply about the exchange, or it's about self-defense, or it's about disarming your opponent. It's not about having to win. So, but just watching that fight scene was pretty dope. I can't lie, I enjoyed it because it was just I in my mind I was just I swear, if these guys don't throw hands, and I mean a legitimate fight, I'm gonna be pissed off, because unfortunately somebody spoiled it for me, and I saw when Kenobi was just getting worked by Vader before, and he was just so weak. I was just I'm gonna hate the show. But they definitely did let me down when it came to that last fight scene. And then one that is obviously not so blunt, but ultimately I enjoyed the how they illustrated, but how they kind of informed the audience that obviously Kenobi all this time, even if it wasn't, he kind of said it, you could tell that Kenobi was definitely down on himself and he felt extremely guilty. But to have, I think maybe it kind of whisked by people. It's okay, the person that in a sense is kind of almost been the root of as far as your this depressive state, was the person who also was able, in my opinion, from what I saw, pulled Kenobi out of kind of this depressive state. Hearing him when Vader basically said I'm not your failure, Kenobi. You didn't kill Anakin, I did. So in that moment it was in my mind, it was Kenobi, hey yo, stop walking around here with your head down, thinking that that just simply because I turned to the dark side, that you get to pretend that's your responsibility, you're the reason for it, or you're taking blame for it and stuff like that. It's Vader was kind of much more saying it in kind of an egotistical way, you're not the reason that I'm this strong. Stop trying to take credit for who I am now. But it was still I still kind of got that underlining tone of just kind of hey, this man, Vader, this tyrant is literally telling you you're not the reason that I am the way that I am. I made this choice. And what it felt like for me, and that's probably why I think I liked it so much, is because most people, well, obviously you guys don't know, but I'm not an Anakin fan. I've never liked Anakin. Anakin always seemed kind of this person who never took responsibility for his actions. But in this moment, it seemed like Vader, oddly enough, after he's, this super serial psychopath killer, has just, or intergalactic killer, if we want to be real about that, but he is accepting responsibility. He's like, you didn't do this. I did. I made the choice. So it was just like, for me to see that, and I think for Kenobi to hear it, it was just like, thank you. Finally, we can hear that. Finally, Kenobi can move on. He can accept the fact of just like, hey, you're right. I could not force you to walk down this path. I can only guide you. In a sense, that is the Jedi way. Like, you're forcing someone, or even influencing them is bad. That's like, again, it's stepping on the grounds of as far as the dark side. But as far as like being an example, guiding them, and I guess, influencing is kind of a way. But as far as like manipulating, I guess would be a better word. That would be, trespassing on the realms of the dark side. But as far as, Kenobi has always been very passive and stuff like that, which is, in my opinion, which we see throughout a lot of the time, is that it seems like he's always kind of hated, that he was just so passive about everything. And maybe he wishes that he was a little bit more, just a better role model to Anakin and stuff like that. So that was great to see, and it was great, to hear, and Vader, say that to him, like, and that's why I just thought that was just so cool, is because, again, like, it's Vader. Vader's the person that is like, that's leading to so much heartache and violence across the galaxy, and is the reason that you're in this depressive state, is the one that eventually helps you pull you out of it. Like, that's crazy to me. I thought that was such a great that was just such a great delivery. So yeah. And then the negatives. So I'm not gonna front. Like, Princess Leia was pissing me off this entire time. The entire time. Now, if we're being honest, like, I'm a father, and I have a little girl who's 3 years old. So I would definitely say, like, like they say, the actors, they did a good job if they get some type of emotional response out of you. And dare I say, that 10-year-old girl, however old she is and stuff like that, boy, oh boy, she definitely triggered something to me. Because she was pissing me off. Like, just her smart mouth and running away and doing all this extra stuff like that. It's definitely a child that has been exposed to too much privilege, and probably used to having her way. Because obviously, your parents are the Organas, so it's like, obviously you're going to, have a lot of liberties and stuff like that. But it just, like, simply just doing, like, some crazy, like, just stuff that she was saying and doing. Even, like, the whole, like, her running away, like, in my mind, I don't know if I was the only one, but I couldn't have been the only person that was just like, Kenobi, if you don't stop playing and catch this little girl, like, she's not running that fast. Like, what are you doing, bro? Stop playing. Get this little girl and move on, fam. Like, I get it. Like, you're trying to stay inconspicuous and you're not trying to get alert, but it's like, the whole chase scene between Kenobi and Leia was probably, maybe three minutes or so, maybe 3 or 4. But during that time period, okay, sacrifice 1 minute to just simply catch her, run into an alleyway, and then, go about your day. Like, you're in a pretty sketchy part of town, obviously. I mean, there's the one kid that walks up to you, kind of hustled you into going to see the fake Jedi and stuff like that. So it's like, clearly, and even that one little girl who gave him some drugs, like, come on. Nobody's gonna care if you snatch up this little girl. It's clearly a very sketchy part of town. So all that time, like, wasting, like, trying to, like, call her and tell her to calm down, like, stop playing, bro. Just catch this girl. Stop messing around. Like, stop. That was pissing me off. Like, really. Even when those mercenaries were were chasing her at the beginning, it's like, bro, you really can't catch her? Yeah, just that was crazy to me. But I understand, it's just part of the storyline. I was definitely upset that I wish we would have definitely seen Sidious a little bit more versus just that one scene when he talks to Vader at the end. And then the Grand Inquisitor looked absolutely terrible. I can't. I didn't necessarily. They did the best they could. I'm not gonna completely just shit on them or anything like that. But they did the best they could as far as those the Inquisitor. I mean, but I definitely wish his head just wasn't so fat, like we'd seen on social media a couple times. And then lastly, the big part which pisses me off the most, which I think has probably the biggest impact on the Star Wars fandom or the Star Wars universe, is the fact that yet again Kenobi left Vader alive. Now I get it. Before you jump out the window, it's like, oh, well, the story doesn't continue, and y'all start throwing all these, like, oh, well, it's about forgiveness, and no. There's still a certain level of, even though, despite, not to contradict myself what I said earlier, as far as like Anakin's actions, I do think that as someone who took up the role of Jedi Master and who swore to defend the galaxy and, pledged his allegiance to the Republic and stuff like that, it's like, okay, the first time that you fought Vader, he survived. He just caught on fire, and you saw what became of him. You've known about Vader for the last 10 years, period. Like, there's no question about it. You know that he survived. You know what he's out here doing. All right. It is what it is. But now you get into a situation again to where it's just like the most unlikely person, and I say unlikely person in terms of like raw strength or the skill or ability and stuff like that, ends up beating Vader not once, but twice. And you let him live again. Because Vader, just because like you beat him, doesn't necessarily mean that he's just gonna stop his terrible ways. He didn't go back to the light side of the Force. He was just exhausted and couldn't fight anymore. And it was just a situation to where it was like, you got what you wanted. That's what that ending part did kind of irritate me a little bit, because it was just like, again, as I said before, Vader basically, absolved you of any responsibility as far as like, what Anakin turned into, which is, a murderous, international villain, intergalactic villain. But then you're just like, oh, thank you, I feel better. Like, I always thought it was my fault. No, it wasn't your fault. Okay, well, all right, well, I'm gonna leave now. Take care. It's just like, dude, are you serious? Stop this nonsense, bro. Like, finish the job. And I understand that that's dark, but it's at this point to where it's like, all right, Kenobi, it's clear, which I will give Kenobi. Kenobi has never been somebody that I've seen that has had any remote, like, instances to where it's just like, I feel like Kenobi would turn to the dark side. Like, we've never seen that, with Kenobi. Kenobi has always been, dare I say, if there's a word for it, pure of heart. And I don't necessarily want that to just simply just be the reason why he spared him and stuff like that. It's just like, bro, he's going to go on to terrorize the galaxy for a long time after this fight. And you still let him live. I get it that it goes against, that would pretty much like erase pretty much all the New Hope and all the Return of the Jedi, like, I get it, I understand it, but it's still a really big missed opportunity on Kenobi's part. You've watched him hunt down Jedi, his Inquisitors hunt down Jedi, and you choose to not take advantage of an opportunity to take away a really, really big chess piece on the board. And then what's more, Vader just gets up and leaves too. Really? I was just like, come on, man. Like, the fight scene was terrible. Kenobi, learning to forgive himself, like, was great and stuff like that. But it just seems very, very diva-ish. Very irresponsible, I guess would be a word. Just it's not my fault. Great. All right, I'm out of here. Take care. Have fun terrorizing the galaxy. Like, that just irritated me. And it was like, we saw in the last scene as far as like when Vader talking to Sidious and stuff like that, even he had a growth moment and stuff like that as far as like, just Sidious, asking him like, hey, I'm starting to kind of question like, your loyalties and stuff like that. Not necessarily that you want to serve him again, but it's just like you were so blindly chasing after him, or he has such an emotional hold on you and stuff like that, that he literally is a weak point in Vader. Like, even the word Kenobi sends him into a downward spiral and stuff like that. So, again, and we've never seen any type of relationship or any type of conversation or any type of like breaking and just like this murderous character than when we've seen him when it comes to conversations with Kenobi. So overall, I would definitely say that I enjoyed it. It was a great insight in terms of like the psychology and as far as like what Kenobi had been going through for the last 10 years. There were some certain small stuff and stuff like that that did irritate me. And some parts that honestly I think maybe I'm just different that I enjoyed. But overall, I think it was a great show. Like I said, surprised me. So in my personal opinion, I think I definitely gave it an 8 out of 10. And I definitely recommend it for anyone. I definitely hope that they do another season. I'm definitely praying. I know there's a lot on the horizon and stuff like that. I'm hoping that we get to see more Inquisitors. We get to see Galen Merrick, and we get to see Mace Windu at some point and stuff like that. It's just there's a lot out there. So all in all, it was great. Had a good time. So yeah, great show. I definitely recommend, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on Disney Plus. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'm King Sylar. Hope you guys have a great day. Peace.